Well, you ought to be excited to know that you're not fighting for victory, you're fighting from victory because of the accomplishments of Christ and the cross. In fact, this accomplishment has given you a brand new wardrobe, a wardrobe to wage victorious spiritual warfare. And the first piece of armor that's a part of your wardrobe is the belt of truth. Truth is an absolute standard by which reality is measured. And it is the stabilizing piece of armor, which is why it's the first piece. In the same way that we wear belts to stabilize our clothing and to keep things intact, God has given us truth as the stabilizing force in our lives, because you see, our enemy only knows how to function in lies. And that is why truth must be foundational for everything else. All the other pieces of armor hang on this belt called truth. And there's never been a time when this belt has been needed more. We live in a day of relativism. We live in a day where absolute truth has been disregarded and thrown out of the window. But there are two answers to every question: God's answer and everybody else's. And everybody else is wrong. So no matter what you're facing, return to God's perspective on the matter, which is truth, because it will then be the basis of you addressing anything else that comes to face you and attack you, seeking to defeat you, because truth alone is the basis of your victory. Introduces us to the first piece of attire that gives you victory in the spiritual realm, which affects how things work in the physical realm. And he calls it, gird up your loins with truth. Verse 14 says, gird up your loins with truth. The first thing that you must keep with you at all times is a truth belt. To gird up your loins means to put on a belt. Virtually all the men here have belts on. The loin is the waist area. He says, gird up your loins with truth. Many of the ladies here have belts on. A belt for a man holds up his pants, keeps his shirt tucked in. What a belt does is bring order to the attire. You know, with a belt, you aren't sagging, and you shouldn't be. I don't get that. Every time I see somebody sagging, I want to go buy a belt or use a belt. But it brings order, and it holds things in place. The belt holds things. It keeps the pants up. It keeps the shirt in. It holds things in place. So he's using the human body to make a spiritual point. Gird up, belt your loins with truth. The belt is usually buckled when things have been situated, and then you keep them situated with the belt. You button the pants, you tuck in the shirt, and now you want it to hold. You don't want it shifting on you. You don't want it moving on you, and so you tie it all together with the belt. When the belt's there, then now I'm ready to move. I'm ready to move because now I won't disturb the order of things if I keep my belt buckled. He says, if you're going to win in the spiritual realm, you need a belt, and the name of this belt is called truth. You never leave home without it because it'll hold things together. Now, taking it from this contemporary context to the historical one, all of you who've watched movies from the Roman era, which is when the Bible was written or when these activities occurred, know that they walked around in tunics, sort of long robes. That's how the people dressed, men and women. They dressed in these tunics, these long robes. Except when they were going to do something serious, because then they would tie the tunic. They would gird their loins with a belt or a rope or a piece of cloth. They would lift up the tunic and tuck it inside the belt or the rope or the piece of cloth. When they did that, that meant they were getting ready to move. Either they had work to be done and they didn't want to step on the tunic, or they had activities to take care of and they needed things to be, because they were going to be in movement and in motion. So to hold things together in their movement, they would gird up their loins. That is, they would take the tunic and tuck it in and tighten the belt because they were about to move. When a Roman soldier was about to go to battle, he would tie up his tunic because he was getting ready now to go to war. He says, keep your belt on with truth. Now this raises a fundamental question for us and our culture today, and Pilate asked it many years ago. What is truth? What is truth? What is this thing called truth? Because it is your understanding of truth, because truth is all over the place today. You hear people regularly talking about my truth. I know my truth. My truth. It is because we do not understand this belt and why it is so critical, and I'll tell you why it's critical in a moment, that we start off dressing wrong. And when you start off dressing wrong, everything else is going to look out of place. He says the first thing you must never leave home without is truth. Our world today is full of opinions, prognostications, perceptions. The pundits are forever moving in realms of pomposity, of discussion that leave us guessing. What was true yesterday is not true today. Coffee is bad for you. We had another research, coffee not that bad for you. You know, it keeps jumping all over the place. So when it comes to food and some medicines and stuff, you don't know whether to take it or not. Because yesterday would kill you, but a new study tells you today it's all right. And so you're not sure what is true. What is true? Here's the definition of true. Truth is an objective standard by which reality is measured. It is an objective standard, that is a standard outside of you. It is outside of you. It is an objective standard by which you measure the reality of something. It is not predicated first and foremost on how you feel or what you think about it. It's not predicated on how you feel or what you think about it to determine whether it's truth. Truth is an objective standard by which reality is measured. It's a fixed standard. Truth is that to which all things must conform. Truth is reality in its original norm. That is, truth is that which is real because it was real originally. So in order to discover truth, you look for origin. Since God is the originator of all origin, only God can be the fixed standard of what is true. Because he is the origin of it. There is no pre-origin to God. So there's nobody behind God that you can go to check on God. There's nobody you can go to say, did God know what he was talking about, thinking about, saying when he said, did, or thought this? Because that is the original norm. It is an objective standard by which reality, what is real, is measured. Since God is the originator, and since God is perfect, it is absolutely critical that he is the point of reference. Suppose you jumped on a plane and the pilot said, I think this is the right way to go. I think I'm going north. I feel it. I feel it. I mean, we wouldn't function well like that. You probably get off that plane. He's talking about, I think it's going to lift off. You know what pilots are taught? Pilots are taught to read the instruments and never go by how you feel. Because you what? Up there in the space, you can get disoriented. Because you can feel you're going right side up and really be upside down. That's what they believe happened with John Kennedy. That he got disoriented and that he was upside down when he thought he was right side up, and he plunged into the ocean because he was disoriented. He was deceived by the environment. Satan is the great deceiver. He can flip you upside down and you think you right side up. And how many of us have thought we were going right side up only to discover we were upside down? That's why they have control towers. They have objective standards outside of you to let you know whether you're headed right, to let you know. See, you're looking out there, the pilot looking out there, I don't see any planes. That doesn't mean a thing. That doesn't mean a thing, you don't see any planes. There is a control tower that gives you an objective standard that tells you whether you see a plane or not, there is a plane there. Because your sight line is limited. Here's the question of truth. The question of truth boils down to one thing. What will be your final standard? It boils down to that. Will it be your emotions? The problem with that is feelings change. Feelings change. You're happy, you're sad. You're glad, you're mad. Feelings change. You cannot use your feelings as a measurement of truth. Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not suggesting you disregard feelings. Feelings are real. Feelings are there. I'm not saying you skip feelings. I am saying you don't allow feelings to be the final arbitrator of what the truth is. See, that's a big difference. Acknowledge them, have them. God gave us feelings, but never allow them to be the final determiner of truth. You say, well, I'm smart. My mind, I can figure this out. I don't care how smart you are finite in your brilliance. You are smartly limited. You have limitations. That's why with new information we go, oh. How many times have you went, oh, or oops? New information was added to your brilliance that you were previously unaware of, which made you change your view. New information. That's why they do all these studies, come up with new information and tell you different things, because they get new data. God is the only one that has all the information. Everybody else is ever learning it. So we're finite in our minds. What will we use? Our moral instincts? Well, they vary. Everybody has different opinions about right and wrong and good and bad and up and down. So we must make a definitive statement about truth. Watch this, even when we don't like it. Because I'm going to tell you now, a lot of truth, you don't like it. My father, and he will kill me if I don't edit this off of the tape by the time he hears it. Because my parents regularly tell me, stop using us in your sermons. Find them people down there and use them. So he'll tell me that in a minute. And my father one day went to the doctor. And the doctor was telling him what was wrong and what he had to do. And my father did not like what the doctor had to say. He did not like it. I said, Dad, what did the doctor say? He told me what the doctor said. And then he said, I ain't fooling with him. I said, but wait a minute. He did the test. He did the examination. He said this was wrong. He said, I ain't fooling with him. I said, well, what you going to do? And his answer was, change doctors. Isn't that what we do? When we hear somebody who says the truth, but we don't like the truth, we switch. Folks switch churches because they don't want the truth. Folks switch counselors because they don't like it. Folks switch friends because they don't like it. That's not the question is it the truth? Why? Why is this a critical issue? Because demons piggyback on lies. See, this is why this is not a small issue. Demons ride horseback on lies. So if you have believed a lie, you have invited a demon. Okay, did you hear me? If you believe a lie, remember the schemes of the devil are deception. If you believe a lie, you have now told a demon you have permission to ride me. Ride my back, control my life, because that is the engine they piggyback on. See, so many of us are demon-led. Demon-led, thinking we're okay. We're flying upside down, thinking we're right side up, and demons are behind the wheel. Okay, now that was deep. And that's the truth. He says, put on your belt. Don't leave home without it. You function with a mindset of truth, with a fixed standard. Here is why. Because your soul and my soul, which is the mind, the emotions, and the will, that's your soul, has been distorted. I hate to tell you that, but it's distorted. It's distorted. It's jacked up. It's messed up. You can't trust you. See, the moment you begin to trust you over God, the moment all of us have kids who do this, who think they're grown. Come on, you ever had a kid thought they were grown? Even if you don't have children, you were a child thinking you were grown. And the reason I know that is because your mama told you. They think they're grown, so they will tell a parent with no experience, no knowledge, no money, they ain't got nothing going for them, but they will tell a parent how things ought to be. And then guess what they do? They will go use their friends as a way to endorse them talking to you. Well, my friends, they will try to bum rush you with group thinking. And their friends are as ignorant as they are. Well, we're God's children. We're children. We don't know enough. have independent truth. And so we live lives upside down rather than right side up because of distorted souls. And that's when they get their entrance, the demonic realm. And when they do, they establish a hard drive in the head. Because the way they rule you, the spiritual realm we're talking about, is in your mind. Your problem, my problem, our problem is between our ears. That's where the problem is. What you're struggling with, what you do, is here. It's all here. Look at real quickly, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 10. Well-known scripture. Spiritual warfare, verse 3, 2 Corinthians 10:3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh. It's not the way you win is not with your human capacities, but divinely inspired for the destruction of fortresses. We are destroying, look at what we're destroying, speculations and every lofty thing raised up against, guess what? The knowledge of God. And we are taking every thought captive to obedience of Christ. He says what the evil world wants to do is set up a fort in your mind and create speculations. Every time a demon hears you say, I think, they say, hey, pay attention. We got her. We got him because she didn't go into her thinking. He didn't go into his thinking. So what they do is set up a fort. It says fortresses, a fort, okay? And they set up a fort that must be dismantled. We must destroy, it says, speculations, your ideas. He says we are to destroy speculations, and we are to destroy not only speculations, but every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God. Here it is. You ought to get rid of, I am to get rid of, we ought to get rid of anything that blocks God's point of view from getting through. Anything that blocks God's point of view from getting through must be torn down. Because if they can get a fort, block out God's point of view, leave you with your point of view, your mama's point of view, your friend's point of view, your neighbor's point of view, and your own personal point of view, gotcha. That realm owns you. And you find yourself in a stronghold. The stronghold is a spiritual thing you can't shake. Because the knowledge of God was not bad. The word lofty thing means, the Greek word means partition. And it's like some of our rooms on the side. Some of our bigger rooms have partitions down the middle. You can block them off so that they become two rooms. What Satan wants to do is pull a partition in your mind. Look, here's what he wants. He wants you to have the God side, and he wants you to have the man side. He wants you to have the Bible side, and he wants you to have what other people think side. He doesn't mind you having the God side as long as there's a partition. He does not mind you saying, hallelujah, praise the Lord, preach it, let me read my Bible. He wants you, he likes you going to church as long as you have the partition. As long as on Monday you're going to flip and go to the other side, he owns you because he's created a partition of the mind that keeps truth or the knowledge of God from flowing through. And if he can keep the partition up so that you speculating and pontificating and are consumed with the human point of view, it blocks out the knowledge of God. And without the knowledge of God, you do not have the work of God, the power of God, the Spirit of God bringing you victory. And so he says that there's got to be truth with a belt that you wear all the time. Let me tell you something else about truth. Truth is more than information and more than facts. It includes information and it includes fact, but you can have fact and information and not have truth. Sometimes truth can be tough. I'm reminded of the humorous story of the two very wicked businessmen. These were two evil businessmen. And they started attending this church, but they were wicked. The pastor knew they were wicked, but they started attending the church, and the church was in a building fund campaign. So they needed money, and these two rich businessmen were now starting to come to the church for more social reasons, but they were coming to the church, but they were filthy rich. One of the businessmen, one of the brothers, died. The other wicked brother came to him and said, now, Pastor, I know you're in this building fund, and I have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that I want to write a check out for the building fund for you under one condition. When you funeralize my brother next week, you've got to call him a saint. You got to say as part of the funeral, he's a saint. And then I'll give you hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, the pastor is caught on the horns of a dilemma because he knows this guy is not a saint. Yeah, he needs his money because he's in a building program. So the question was, how can I be authentic and tell the truth and not lose this money? Or can I? It came to the funeral. It was time for the eulogy. He began speaking about this brother, and he said, this man was wicked, evil. He was almost Satan incarnate in his business practices. But compared to his brother, he's a saint. There's a way to deal with the truth. So what am I saying? Jesus made a statement. You don't have to turn there, but you all know it, John 8. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Now, everybody likes to quote that without having defined the truth. See, so that's a nice thing to throw out there to make it sound like you're using the Bible. But unless what you're calling true is what God says is true, it's not the truth. I don't care how many people voted for it. I don't care how many people agree with it. I don't care how popular it is. If it disagrees with a divine point of view, it's not the truth, so you won't be free. You will not be delivered. You will not be victorious. And you sure enough won't be free indeed. For he who the Son sets free is sure enough free. Indeed free. For real free. Because the truth sets people free. But it's God's truth, not your truth. It's God's truth, not man's truth. It's God's truth because the demonic spiritual realm, here it is. Jack Nicholson said it best. Can't handle the truth. See, they can't handle the truth. When Jesus was being attacked by the devil and he hit him 3 times with the truth, the Bible says, and the devil left him because he couldn't take it. He couldn't handle it because his nature is a lie. His nature is deception. So you keep hammering with the truth even though you don't feel it. You keep hammering with the truth even though you don't like the truth. You keep hammering with the truth even though the truth is not what you want. But you keep hammering with the truth. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but God said, but God said, but God said, boom, boom, boom. You keep hammering him. You keep hammering him. You keep hammering him. You keep hammering him. But God said, but God said, but God said, but God said, no. I am a homosexual. That's not the truth. So that's not the truth. Now, you may have homosexual feelings, but that's not who you are. Because God says once you've accepted Christ, you are a saint. You are a son or daughter of the living God. That's who you are. Satan's got you thinking you something you were never meant to be. But you've been thinking it so long that now you believe it. But now you got to say, no, devil, you just lied to me. You told me I'm a homosexual. God tells me I'm righteous in him. So you lying, God's telling the truth in spite of how I'm feeling. Devil, you said I'm an alcoholic. God says I'm not an alcoholic. Now, I may have a propensity toward alcohol, but now that I'm repeating what God has said, I'm going to move this partition so the Spirit of God can go through. God says man says I'm nobody. My mother said I'm nobody. Mama was lying because God says I am somebody. I'm a son or daughter of the living God. That's the truth. And I'm going to keep saying the truth. And I'm going to tear down this partition. And I'm not going to let you lie to me. You a lie, and the devil's not going to have his way in this. And you keep bombarding with the truth. And I don't care how long or how high that wall has been, how long that wall's been up. You keep handing bam with the truth. And then one of these minutes, you're going to see a little crack. There's going to be a little crack in there. There's going to be a little crack. And you know what that crack means? This wall's on its way down. That crack means this wall is on its way down. And once you see that crack, you ain't going to let it go. And you will see the truth set you free.